Welcome to Crown TV. Immerse yourself with a captivating audio from our stories. We provide an alternative way to read books in audio. We upload many audiobooks as possible, from bestsellers to timeless classic. Subscribe and stay tuned for new upload.
Episode 381. Are you ready? Nellie pulled her hat further down, hiding her face. She glared over at the table, and then she started to eat her food. Why do these groupies like Alex so much? She thought. They barely know him. I'll just watch you from afar, Alex, she muttered to herself. I won't get in the way. After all, I'm your cousin, so there can't be anything between us. A tear slipped down her cheek. The Hudson River Falls had always been popular with tourists, and the mysterious old man sitting by the water had become something of a feature of the season. Stories spread as tourists advised each other on how to find him. But on this occasion, something had changed. They could see the old man sitting quietly by himself. But when they tried to get closer, people wearing martial arts robes stopped them, and the tourists began to question them. Why can't we get closer? We just want to see the waterfall. Is there a law against visiting the falls? Sorry, this area isn't open to the public today, a man said, blocking their path. You'll have to find some other place to watch from. The tourists continued to voice their complaints. Why, is there a law against us being here? Who are you? You're not police. Who put you in charge? This is a public place. What gives you the right to deny us entry? The men didn't bother to answer. They stood with their hands behind their backs, staring threateningly at the tourists. When Jack walked over, the tourists were shocked by his enormous biceps and surly expression. He was not someone they wanted to mess with. Some of the timid tourists scurried away, deciding it was better not to provoke these people. Jack didn't think much of the martial arts community. He had pretended to be polite to them. But when the violence of the Blood Brothers had been exposed, the community had driven him out. Now, he didn't pretend to be anything other than what he was. Recognizing this, everyone kept their distance. Of course, some people were allowed in, particularly those wearing martial arts robes. Sharon was stuck outside. She and Kelly had been waiting for ages, but they couldn't get close to the area. Although they were angry, they didn't dare make a fuss. Instead, they chose to call and report the matter to the local authorities. The police merely told them that they knew Tyson had arranged an event at the falls. Since members of the public weren't allowed in, they were satisfied that no innocent people would get hurt. Sharon angrily hung up the phone. Rose, Kelly, and Lindsay stood behind her. None of them had been allowed in. What do we do now? Lindsay asked, feeling a little anxious. The women had all put aside their disagreements to be here for Alex. If they couldn't get in, then it would have all been in vain. Do you think they can control the whole Hudson River? Sharon yelled, furious. We have every right to be here. How dare they be so arrogant? Jack, let them in. The voice came from far away, startling the women. They turned and saw the old man sitting cross-legged on a rock, but he was too far away to have heard them. Wasn't he? Did you hear what I said? Sharon asked, frowning in confusion. Yes, I can hear exceptionally well, the man said, laughing. Rose couldn't resist, and she rushed forward before the man changed his mind and left them standing outside. The other women hurried after her. Only Kelly hesitated. As soon as she went in, she saw Nellie staring resentfully at her. The old man sat beside the waterfall, glazing out at the Hudson River. He barely moved. The spectators sat further away, watching him and waiting to see what he would do. "Where will they fight?" Sharon asked, puzzled. "There's not much room there. What if they fall into the river?" Sharon didn't understand, and neither did anyone else. Why had Tyson chosen to fight on the edge of this surging Hudson River? "He's no ordinary martial artist," one man told them. "He knows what he's doing, and I'm sure he'll win. I only hope no one else gets hurt." "Is that likely?" Rose asked, her mouth dropping open. Everyone thought the man was exaggerating. No matter how fierce the fight was, the spectators would be safe. At the hospital, Jessup stared anxiously at the door. All he cared about was Debbie. But he knew they were running out of time to deal with Hudson. Could Alex still reach the Hudson River in time? Alex and Debbie had been locked in that room for 3 days. On Alex's orders, no one had been allowed inside, not even to bring in anything for Alex and Debbie to eat or drink. If Jessup hadn't been standing guard by the door, the medical staff would have broken in by now. Jessup believed in Alex, and although he thought Debbie had recovered, he still faithfully carried out Alex's instructions. He jumped as the door opened, and then he rushed into the room, followed by a group of doctors. They were all stunned at what they saw. The room was warm and bright, all traces of cold gone. It wasn't the stuffy kind of heat that came from central heating, but a gentle warmth that felt like the emergence of spring. Alex stood there with a faint smile on his face, while Debbie lay on the bed, looking perfectly healthy. She seemed radiant and even more beautiful than before. "Are you ready?" she asked softly. Her eyes were sad as she looked at Alex, knowing he had exhausted himself to save her. How could he possibly have enough strength left to defeat Tyson? Episode 382, Making an Entrance. "Don't worry," Alex said, smiling at Debbie. "It'll be okay." He had refused to give up on her, and as a result, he now understood the true meaning of the martial arts he had learned, allowing him to reach a new level of skill. No wonder the Moon Palace was so highly thought of by martial artists around the world. People barely understood a fraction of the knowledge it contained. Jessup hugged Debbie and burst into tears, relieved to see her looking so well. A few of the nurses were gaping at her, unable to believe what they were seeing. After a while, Dr. Howard arrived with the hospital's CEO, Austin Gray. They ground to a halt, their eyes locked on Debbie and their mouths hanging open. "It's a miracle," Dr. Howard said, shaking his head. "I've never seen anything like it." "Mr. Ambrose, if you'd like to join the medical staff at this hospital, we'd be fortunate to have you," Austin said. "Mr. Ambrose, I'd love to know how you achieved this," Dr. Howard said. "Perhaps I can get your input on some of my more difficult cases." Alex shrugged. He wasn't interested in becoming a doctor, but he didn't want to disappoint these people. After all, they had done their best for Debbie. "Debbie, look at how much better you look," a nurse said, handing Debbie a mirror. "Oh?" Debbie said, touching her face as she looked in the mirror. Her reflection stared back at her with rosy cheeks and sparkling eyes. Debbie had always been beautiful, but now that she was completely healthy, she was truly stunning. Alex also appeared more attractive now that he wasn't so worried about her. They both seemed relaxed and refreshed. Debbie flexed her muscles, feeling stronger than ever, and relieved that the numbness was gone. Her mind was clear, and her body was responding as it should. She felt better than she had in her entire life. Dr. Howard examined her, and he discovered she was in peak physical condition, almost like a professional athlete at the height of their career. Alex rubbed his chin on the leg of his pants, trying to disperse the remainder of Tyson's freezing inner power, which he had extracted from Debbie's body. Alex scowled, recognizing the power as having come from the far north. Debbie must have suffered. He narrowed his eyes. "I'm on my way, Tyson," he muttered. He nodded at everyone, ready to take his leave. Debbie sensed the change in him, and she stretched out her hand to pluck at his clothes. "Are you leaving me?" she asked. "I'll be back soon," he promised. "Can't you just let it go?" Debbie asked, pleading with him. She would rather let Tyson escape than having Alex in danger. "No, I can't," Alex said, his tone determined. "He attacked you, and I won't forgive him for that. I'll make him pay for what he did to you." "Then I'll go with you," Debbie said, biting her lip as she sat up. "No, Debbie. You need your rest." Alex reached out and gently squeezed her shoulder. "Wait here for me." "Alex, do you really have to go?" Jessup asked, worried about Alex's safety. He had seen Tyson's power and he feared the worst. Alex didn't answer. He simply left the room, and everyone watched him go, knowing they couldn't stop him. Along the Hudson River, more warriors were arriving from all over the world. Everyone wanted to see this fight. Tyson had such a strong reputation that they were shocked anyone could be brave enough to face him. 1 minute passed, then another, then 3 minutes. As time went by, everyone checked their watches, but there was still no sign of Alex. They sat patiently, waiting for his arrival and wondering which direction he would come from. The martial artists seemed unconcerned about the delay. They simply sat there, watching the river. Tyson had been sitting with his eyes closed. Now he cracked them open and tilted his head to the side, listening to the sounds of the river. Several of the martial artists stood up, looked around, and murmured to themselves. "That's Alex! Alex is coming!" The news rippled through the crowd, and Alex's name was on everyone's lips. The leading martial artist stared at the river, hoping to catch the first glimpse of Alex as he arrived. Kelly stood on her tiptoes, wanting to see the man of her dreams. But all she could see was the river. A boat appeared, traveling toward them, propelled by the currents. Was that Alex standing inside it? Everyone craned their necks, watching as the boat grew closer. Alex stood inside it, allowing it to carry him to his destination. His entrance was much more entertaining than the sight of Tyson merely sitting on the shore. People lifted their phones, taking pictures of Alex and chattering excitedly. "He's so young. That's so cool. It's more than that. It's magnificent." Alex kept his balance easily, not allowing the rocking of the boat to disturb him. Women squealed as they watched him, and Lindsay and Rose had lumps in their throats. They were tempted to jump into the river to meet him. Episode 383, Only Martial Arts Endure. "Is that really Alex?" Rose asked as he came closer. "He looks so different." "He seems more handsome than before," Sharon said, frowning. "And is he taller, or am I just imagining it? I don't remember him looking that good." Kelly stared at Alex, transfixed by his appearance. She had always liked him, but she had to admit that the determined look on his face was particularly attractive. For a while, everyone stood quietly, unwilling to break the spell. Nellie sighed as she looked at Alex, knowing she would never be able to walk away from him.
"You'll always be the same to me, Alex,"
she whispered. The boat floated down the river, and the old man rose slowly, his white hair blowing in the wind. He turned to face everyone, his movements graceful and his posture perfect. "Alex, you're here at last," he called. "I've been waiting a long time for you to show yourself. I was starting to think you weren't coming." His voice was audible even over the roaring sound of the river, and people clapped their hands over their ears trying to stop the ringing noise. Kelly was scared, and her legs trembled, threatening to give up and drop her to the ground. Alex looked up. "I assume you're Tyson," he called. The old man nodded. "Yes, that's me." "Good," Alex said. "I want to make sure I'm killing the right person." As he spoke, he leapt off the boat and landed on the banks of the river. The movement rocked the boat, tipping it over and causing it to fill with water. Then the current smashed it into a rock, breaking it into pieces, which floated off down the river. The bystanders gasped. The river was so fast, and Alex had managed to simply hop onto dry land, not getting even slightly wet in the process. That took a lot of skill, and they were all impressed. To arrive on time, Alex had hired a small boat further up the river, deciding that would get him there faster than traveling by car. Still, most people wouldn't have attempted it. Tyson laughed. "Ah, the arrogance of youth," he said. "You really do believe that you can kill me. Excellent. This should be fun." He wasn't annoyed at all. He was looking forward to taking on Alex. He knew few people could match his skills, and he had grown lonely in the far north with only polar bears for company. It would be good to spar with this young man. Hopefully, Alex was as skilled as he was confident. Otherwise, Tyson would be embarrassed to crush him so easily. Alex stepped into the water, making his way toward Tyson. The river dragged at him, trying to pull him off balance, but Alex kept his feet. "You're really not afraid, are you?" Tyson asked, surprised. When he had been waiting for Alex to arrive, he had been perfectly still. But now he exploded into action, rushing at Alex. The two men collided, coming together in violence. Alex fought hard, his movements elegant and fast. He used the techniques he had learned at the Moon Palace, determined to win. He blocked Tyson's strike, hitting back and refusing to give ground. The next attack had them both staggering backwards. Tyson was ferocious and full of brute strength. But Alex was faster and more graceful, adapting quickly to whatever Tyson threw at him. Their audience was shocked, too stunned to look away for even a moment. They stood still, breathing harshly, realizing that this fight would not be settled quickly. Neither of them was able to gain the upper hand, no matter how hard they tried. Alex clenched his fists and forced himself to breathe deeply, remaining calm. Kelly's heart was pounding as she watched him. "Alex," she thought, "if I were to die today, I'd just be happy that I got to see you like this." Nellie stared fiercely at Tyson, as though she wanted to attack him. "Tyson, you made the mistake of attacking Debbie," Alex called to him. "Now I won't stop until I've destroyed you." Tyson laughed. "As Lord of the Moon Palace, you're surrounded by women. Why do you care about that particular one? Concentrate on your martial arts. That's what's really important." He shook his head, sighing. "Imagine what you could accomplish if you weren't distracted by worldly matters like love." Tyson only cared about improving his fighting skills, and he had never understood why people were so obsessed with love. As a result, he had no idea why Alex was making such a fuss about Debbie. Tyson couldn't care less about the woman. He had only used her to provoke Alex into fighting him. Besides, he knew that if Alex had tried to heal Debbie, then it would have used up much of his strength. And if he hadn't healed her, then he would be distracted by her loss. Either way, it gave Tyson an advantage. But Alex had used what he had learned to save Debbie without draining himself of the power needed to battle with Tyson. "If you don't care about the rest of the world, then why did you come all the way here?" Alex asked. "I thought you wanted revenge for Lee. Isn't that what you said?" "There are so many members of the Blood Brothers," Tyson said, shrugging. "Who cares if one dies? Hate or love, it's all the same. Only martial arts endure forever." The spectators listened to Tyson, realizing that he looked down on them all. Tyson was cold-blooded and merciless, and he cared nothing for other people. Only his own life seemed to be important to him. Tyson smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "But you've come here to challenge me, and you're getting in my way," he said. "So now I will kill you and prove my skills to the world." He dashed toward Alex, his eyes narrowed in concentration, determined to kill his opponent. Alex met him halfway. The two men attacked each other, striking out with hands and feet, and the momentum carried them both over the falls. As they plummeted, Tyson seemed to glide, totally in control of his descent, riding the water toward the bottom. Alex held his own, staying upright. Everyone held their breath. Tyson and Alex seemed well matched. Episode 384, Rainbows and Dragons. At the bottom of the waterfall, Alex shook the water out of his eyes and prepared to strike again. The river flowed faster, and still Alex didn't fall. His palm sliced through the air, seeking its target. It began to rain, the drops glistening in the sunlight, creating a haze around the two men. Tyson began to fight back. He channeled his inner power and struck out with his fist. The sun hit the raindrops and reflected off the mist of the waterfall, creating a spectacular rainbow. To those watching, it seemed like Tyson's hand cut through the rainbow on its way toward Alex. Alex drew on his inner power and met Tyson's attack head-on. When the two men made contact, their arms shook with the force of the collision. Both Alex and Tyson were surprised at the other's skill, as they hadn't expected to meet anyone so powerful. Alex was also surprised by Tyson's aggression. Alex was struggling to cope with both Tyson's assault and the movements of the water. The ferocity of their fight stirred up the Hudson River, sending violent currents swirling. Anyone standing too close to the river's edge was in danger of being swept away. "I guess I can see how you became the Lord of the Moon Palace at such a young age," Tyson admitted grudgingly. "But that won't save you now." "I don't need saving," Alex said, taking a step forward and letting the spray from the waterfall conceal him a little. He held up his hands, barely visible through the haze. Tyson pushed up his sleeves and strode forward into the mist, ready to do battle. The falls consisted of a steady curtain of water, the noise deafening. Alex's strike missed, the water distorting his aim. "What kind of martial arts is this?" Tyson demanded, retreating a little to regroup. A rock crumbled above them. The fragments were thrown over the falls, narrowly missing the two men. Then another, much larger piece broke off and hurtled over the edge, sinking deep into the river, sending an enormous wave toward the riverbank. The onlookers all gaped in shock. "This next move was created thousands of years ago by my teacher's ancestor," Alex said. "It's called the dragon. If I'd had more time to practice it, then I could kill you with a single blow." Tyson laughed. "I'm familiar with that move," he said. "The founder of the Moon Palace was indeed wise. But it just so happens that I've had plenty of practice with that move, and I'm exceptionally skilled at it. Much more experienced than whatever doddering old half-wit disciple taught you." Tyson narrowed his eyes, clearly determined to get rid of Alex. Alex was being buffeted by the strong currents, but he kept his feet steady, and hatred flashed in his eyes as he glared at Tyson. Although he knew Tyson was deliberately trying to anger him, Alex was still furious. "Do not insult my teacher, or I will destroy you," he said, his voice filled with fury. Even despite the noisy waterfall, Alex's words carried clearly to the spectators, who shivered at the menacing tone. "Do you really think you can kill me?" Tyson taunted him. "Remember, I chose this place. Do you think I did so on a whim?" He grinned. "I'm an expert at fighting in water, and I've spent much time honing my skills. If you dare to come after me, you won't survive." With that, Tyson stepped further into the pounding spray, almost disappearing from view. Alex looked around, trying to spot him. Tyson's laughter echoed, the sound bouncing off the water and rocks, making it difficult to pinpoint his location. Alex moved under the spray, the roar of the waterfall growing increasingly louder. "All you care about is dominating the martial arts world," Alex called, "and you won't succeed." He raised his hand, preparing to use his special dragon move. To the bystanders, the sunlight, rain, and mist combined, creating the illusion of a dragon under the waterfall. They watched, fascinated, as the illusory dragon rippled with power. Alex stood behind the dragon form, hidden from sight. "Alex, you can't win," Tyson called, pleased that Alex appeared to be a strong opponent. He strode forward through the mist, breaking apart the illusion. He struck out, unerringly finding Alex and knocking him back to drop into the river. Within moments, Alex was back on his feet, spitting out water. He caught Tyson by surprise, sweeping his legs out from under him and dunking him in the water. "Tyson, you can't beat me so easily," Alex yelled as Tyson resurfaced. "You'll need to try harder than that." He sent his fist flying at Tyson's face, following up with a punch to his abdomen. Tyson was no longer laughing. His expression had grown serious as he stared warily at Alex. He had thought that his years of experience would triumph over Alex's youthful energy, and he had expected Alex to grow weaker and weaker, making it easy to kill him. But Alex seemed as strong as ever. Why wasn't he getting tired? "Well, let me show you my favorite move," he said. He struck out hard, sending his freezing inner power right at Alex, as he met his gaze, trying to dominate him with his iron will. "Bring it," Alex said, advancing on him. Alex blocked the hit, wincing at the chill that shot up his arm. No matter what Tyson threw at him, he wouldn't give in. "Alex, did you really think that was my special move?" Tyson asked, smirking. "No, that was just a warm-up." He summoned his internal power, lashing out quickly, giving Alex little time to evade him. The water around Alex was freezing, little patches of ice beginning to form on the surface, and he shivered. When Alex retreated into the spray, trying to take refuge behind the misty illusion of a dragon, Tyson pushed more of his power into the water, freezing the dragon shape into a huge ice sculpture and knocking Alex off his feet to land behind the dragon. All the onlookers were stunned. They were so shocked that they weren't even recording the incident on their phones. Alex lay still, his body floating in the frigid river, seemingly not even breathing. No one moved, and everyone was silent, staring at the scene in dismay. Alex had failed to defeat Tyson. Episode 385, The Cold War. Tyson tipped his head back and laughed. "Alex, my freezing inner power is ancient compared to your pathetic dragon move," he said. "You never stood a chance." He pushed more of his power into the water, dropping the temperature further and freezing much of the lake. The ice quickly spread toward Alex, who stared at it, wondering if he could survive this. Tyson was incredibly powerful, and his deeds would be remembered long after he had gone. It seemed like Alex's fate was sealed. On the cliff, several women stood up, tears sliding down their faces as they watched the scene unfold. Nellie was ready to leap down to Alex, determined to protect him. She knew Tyson would make short work of her, but she couldn't stand by and let Alex suffer. "Tyson is just too strong," someone said with a sigh. "There's never been anyone like him." "He has devoted his life to studying martial arts," another man said. "We could all learn from his dedication." Several other martial artists stood with their heads bowed, giving their respect to the fallen Alex. No one could look away. Dazed, they watched the two fighters, waiting to see what would happen. It seemed inevitable that one of the men would die, and they assumed it would be Alex. The river was eerily quiet, the waterfall was frozen in place, and everyone shivered in the chilly air. "Although Alex has been defeated today, he has still made a name for himself," a man said. "People will remember him for a long time." Those around him nodded in agreement, thinking that they would have been honored to fight Tyson, even if it resulted in their deaths. Crack! Nellie ground to a halt, no longer trying to reach Alex, as she looked around for the source of the noise. Her eyes widened as she saw an enormous fault line appear in the icy waterfall and continue through the frozen river. The sound grew deafening as the ice began to crack. A collective gasp came from the crowd, some of them pointing at the waterfall. Tyson gaped at the fissures. Then he turned around, just in time to see Alex swing onto the back of the ice dragon. Then Alex launched himself off the other side, heading straight toward Tyson. With a cry, Tyson fell backwards, shattering the thin layer of ice, and sinking into the Hudson River. No one could believe what they were seeing. The last of the ice cracked, freeing the waterfall and sending it surging over the rocks once more. But Tyson didn't panic. He simply plunged his hands into the river, trying to freeze Alex again. But Alex didn't flinch. He stood tall, staring at Tyson. "I'm still learning, and I haven't had much time to prepare," Alex said. "And yet, I can still withstand your power. So how much more powerful do you think I'll be once I've had the chance to learn more?" Tyson struck out with his power, determined to finish this quickly. Alex avoided Tyson's attack by leaping back onto the frozen dragon sculpture. He placed his hand on the icy neck of the dragon and absorbed the remnants of Tyson's freezing inner power. Then he released the power into the water, sending it straight at Tyson. "How did you do that?" Tyson asked, gaping at him in astonishment. How had Alex mastered the cold so quickly? He hadn't known that Alex was a fast learner, always watching others and assimilating their skills. Tyson's confidence began to falter, and his inner power grew weak. Alex slipped off the dragon's back and sent ice shooting through the water at Tyson, who swept it away. But he missed one piece of ice that hit his leg at high speed, puncturing the flesh like a bullet. Tyson stumbled, losing some of his control and allowing more of the ice to thaw. The dragon had melted and once again consisted of mist and water. "Where are these special skills of yours?" Alex called. He stepped back into the spray of the waterfall. Tyson scowled. The sunlight shone on the dragon illusion, and for a moment it looked like it was moving, rearing up to attack. He reacted immediately, sending his power toward it. "Stop!" Alex said, holding up his hand and sending out his power to meet Tyson's. Tyson's attack halted, held in place and unable to advance. He summoned all his strength to push back. His arm muscles bulged, and his teeth were gritted as he strained, trying to gain the upper hand. His face grew red, sweat dripping down from his forehead, and he even began to shake. Even though he had called up every last bit of his power, he couldn't prevail, and his control shattered. Tyson sagged with exhaustion, breathing heavily. He had little power left, but he still managed to avoid Alex's attack. "Alex," Tyson shouted, "I've spent decades studying in the far north. Do you really think I wouldn't have reserves of power I can call on?"
Thank you for listening to Crown TV. Please don't forget to subscribe, share and turn on the notification button.